Hi there, everyone, and welcome to our webinar tonight called Understanding Report Cards to Support Learning. My name is Samantha Herberman, and I am the Supervisor of Behavior Therapy and a Behavior Consultant with Morneau Chappelle Children's Support Solutions, and I am so excited to be here tonight with Ann Wolf and Karen Wolf, a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law team who run Wolf Educational Consultants, where they work with families to help them assess and understand where their children are excelling and where their children need a little bit of work, and use that information to determine the best possible placement for their children. Just a couple of housekeeping pieces before I introduce Ann and Karen. In terms of participation, we would like you to take a look at your control panel. In order to join the audio portion of our presentation, it would be great if you could choose either your mic and speakers option or your telephone option and dial in using the information provided. Any questions that you have and comments can be submitted via the questions panel, which I'll show you in the next slide as well. Please note that today's presentation is being recorded and will be available on our social media outlets within 48 hours. When it does come time for questions towards the end, please feel free to submit them in the questions panel, which is located in the control panel on the right side of your screen. And a special offer from Morneau Chappelle Children's Support Solutions. We offer you to save $65 when you mention that you participated in the Understanding Report Cards to Support Learning presentation when booking a new appointment with Children's Support Solutions, which we nail in April 30th, 2017, which will save you the administrative fee. And at the end of our webinar, please visit our website, www.childrensupportsolutions.com, or call us at 1-866-653-2397. And now I'm very excited to pass it over to this evening's presenters, Ann Wolf and Karen Wolf.
Thank you, Samantha. Before we get rolling with the presentation, we just wanted to point out that Growing Success is the Ministry of Education's policy on assessment, evaluation, and reporting in Ontario schools from grades 1 through 12. If you have any further questions or concerns following this webinar that you want to follow up with, please consult the policy, as it will explain almost everything pertaining to assessment and evaluation. Let's begin by understanding the difference between assessment and evaluation. The primary purpose of assessment and evaluation is to improve student learning. We use the report cards then to understand how your child/student is achieving in their learning environment and to use it as the assessment data to drive student improvement and student success. Assessment is the process of gathering information that accurately reflects how well a student is achieving specific curriculum expectations. The purpose of assessment is to improve student learning. So we're going to talk about the types of assessment. There are two types of assessment. One is assessment for learning, and the other is assessment as learning. What's the difference? Assessment for learning is when teachers provide students with feedback and coaching. It's used by the teachers and students to determine what students already know and can do. It does not generate a mark. It can be assessed by students and peers. And the primary purpose of assessment for learning is to drive student achievement. Assessment as learning, therefore, helps students to become independent, autonomous learners. It's used to gather information to ensure the teaching is in line with what the student needs to be learning. And it considers if the student is ready to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the subject's material. Assessment includes strategies that address both what the students learn and how well they learn the material. It's based on categories of knowledge and skills and on the achievement level descriptions, which we'll get to in a few slides. Assessments are always varied in nature and administered over a period of time and designed to provide opportunities for students to demonstrate the full range of their learning. When you're reading your child's report card, you can see evidence of assessments used in the comments that you read on your child's report card. Assessment always includes strategies that are fair to all students, that accommodate the needs of exceptional students. You'll see these accommodations on an individual education plan. Assessments accommodate the needs of students who are learning the language of instruction, so ESL or EEL learners. They provide clear directions for improvement. They should always have feedback, which comes in the form of a rubric, which speaks to the success criteria of any assignment or any opportunity a student has to demonstrate their learning. And it promotes the student's ability to assess their own learning. That's very important. Assessments should include the use of samples of students' work. They're communicated clearly to the students and parents at the beginning of the course and during the year. Sometimes in elementary school, this might not be as crystal clear as it is when you're in secondary school and you're given a course outline or a course syllabus. And it goes into great detail about what the expectations are and how the student will be assessed throughout the year. It's important that the information gleaned through these assessments be used as formative only, with the purpose of assisting students to make necessary revisions in order to improve their work. Therefore, assessments drive student achievement. So what's evaluation? Evaluation refers to the process of judging the quality of student learning on the basis of established performance standards. It communicates what the student knows and can do with respect to the overall curriculum expectations. After you've gone through the process of assessment with a student and they've learned and improved their learning, they have to demonstrate that learning in meaningful ways. This is called evaluation. Evidence of student achievement is collected over time from 3 sources. The first is observation. What does the teacher see? The second is conversation. What's translated between the student and the teacher in terms of a conversation about driving student achievement? And finally, student products, including tests, exams, performances, presentations, projects, essays, etc.
Then we look at assessment levels. In Ontario, a level 3 is the provincial standard for achievement. This is the level that Ontario students are expected to demonstrate their knowledge and skills at with considerable effectiveness. It is what students aim for. So in grades 1 through 6, they either receive a number, a level 3 in the classroom on a daily basis is what they should be achieving. On the report card, that translates to a B. In secondary, it translates to between a 73 and a 76. You're always aiming for that, but of course there'll always be those students who realistically are able to achieve at a higher level, and then there are those that perhaps won't be able to. This is with the necessary accommodations that some exceptional students are entitled to. So the question is how the teachers arrive at the report card marks. The grade or the mark shown on the report card involves the teacher's professional judgment and the interpretation of evidence. It reflects what a student knows and can do. So a teacher's professional judgment always comes into play. It's the consolidation of evidence based on assessment and evaluation. and it should reflect the student's most consistent level of achievement, with special consideration given to more recent evidence. So many teachers will expect students to be able to demonstrate a consistent level over 3 trials. So this could entail a project or a test or an oral presentation working toward the same expectations. So they need to demonstrate it over time, and most consideration is given to the most recent evidence. So now that you know a bit about what goes into arriving at the marks, it's the assessment, it's the evaluation, it's the demonstration over time. What information can you expect on a report card? So in Ontario, there are 2 provincial reports that come out, and the one thing that they include is achievement of curriculum expectations. So that is the marks or the grades. What expectation have they been working on in math? Let's say if it's numeracy or patterning. In literacy, if it's reading expectations, writing expectations, media literacy, what marks or grades have they been able to achieve? The report card includes learning skills. Those are given in excellent, good, satisfactory, or needs improvement. These are skills that are taught, that need to be demonstrated and assessed. The IEP box must be checked for students who are working on expectations that differ from the grade-appropriate expectations. This is often a point of confusion for parents whose kids might be on an IEP but receive accommodations only. If they receive accommodations, the IEP box is not necessary to be checked. In fact, it should not be checked. Only if their expectations differ from the expectations of their grades that they are in. It should also include comments on what was being assessed and how to improve those areas that are not yet meeting curriculum expectations. Comments on what was being assessed should include what was being assessed and how your student demonstrated learning in that area. When you read the report card, you should keep these questions in mind. Does it give you a clear picture of what your child knows? And in that respect, is your child meeting the ministry expectations? Do the comments clearly indicate what was being assessed? So there might be a mark, but does it state clearly what that mark refers to? What was the expectation that was being assessed? And do the marks and grades and comments indicate what your child knows and what they can do? Is there any indication that your child is having difficulty meeting expectations? And again, is the IEP box checked appropriately? So you have a lot of information on the report card. The question now is, how do we use that information to improve achievement for all students? Those students meeting expectations, those students exceeding expectations, and a third area of concerns. So one method that we've come up with that works really well is a color coding method. So you look at your report card, you take one color marker and you highlight all areas where it indicates that your child has met the expectations. You take another color, highlight those areas where it says your child has exceeded expectations, and a third color for areas of concern. For students not meeting expectations, there's a whole host of questions that you need to ask. First of all, what strategies has the teacher used to help improve achievement? We know that not all children learn at the same rate and pace. We know that some students excel in oral as opposed to visual. So what has your child's teacher done to help improve your particular child's improvement? What is the teacher's plan now? So they have the students in their class. They know clearly, perhaps, that they're not meeting expectations. It's fine and appropriate for you to ask the teacher what their plan is. Do changes need to be made to the level of the curriculum? So is it realistic to expect your child to be meeting this grade level's expectations? Is it a problem related to learning skills? And this is an area that's often overlooked when we look at the academic achievement. But is your child perhaps not attending? Are they not organized? Are they not prepared? Are they not collaborating? Are they not cooperating? So these learning skills greatly impact the level to which your child might be successful in meeting the expectations. Is your child sitting in the right place to optimize listening and attention? Are they sitting with friends? Are they being isolated? Are there social issues that you need to be concerned about that are impacting academic achievement? These are all questions that you should consider when meeting with your child's teacher. Can your child demonstrate learning orally, but not necessarily with a pencil and paper? And if that's the case, is the teacher prepared to make these accommodations? Does your child require extra time to complete tasks? And do they receive it? Is that an appropriate accommodation? And importantly, what can you do at home to support what's being done in the class? And this is where the teamwork comes into play. Teaching is, partly the job of the teacher. The support is the job of the parents. And together with the students, it forms a cohesive team. For students meeting expectations, that's often achieved by hard work for some students, but for others, it just comes more easily. So how will the teacher stretch their thinking? It's not enough to say, oh, well, they've received level 3s, they're in the 70s, that's just fine. But for these students, how is the teacher going to work to stretch their thinking? Can they demonstrate achievement in multiple ways? So if they were able to demonstrate the achievement in one area of one expectation in a written report, can they do a media presentation on it? Can they do a play on it? Can they dramatize it? Is the teacher monitoring independent reading and encouraging variety? Students should be encouraged to read a variety of genre. They might be able to read independently fictional work, but can they generalize that skill to nonfiction and to a variety of literature? Is your child responding to literature in a variety of ways? Can they give you a comprehensive retell of it? Can they make a connection to the text? Can they give you alternatives to the ending of the text? These are all ways to respond to literature and to stretch their thinking at the same time. Are they able to use a variety of problem-solving strategies when solving math questions? So can they demonstrate it with concrete materials? Can they teach it to a peer? Can they explain it? Can they use numbers only? And again, what can you do at home to support what's being done at school? For students exceeding expectations, although, as parents we want to see our children exceeding expectations, that's sometimes the most difficult students to continue to motivate and be able to get even more out of. So are these students being encouraged to think outside the box? Sure, they might be able to give you a comprehensive answer, but can they come up with a creative answer? Can they use technology to demonstrate
their thinking? Are they able to provide responses using a variety of methods, including technology, including drama, including a variety of multimedia means? Are they improving their vocabulary and using it appropriately in their writing? Students who exceed expectations often are very good readers, where the text that they read is a very good avenue in which to grow their vocabulary. So if they're being exposed to this vocabulary, are they then able to translate that into their writing in order to improve the quality of their writing as well? Do they have opportunities to research areas of interest and share their information in a creative manner? Are they developing critical thinking skills? It's not enough for them to provide a response, but you say, but now what? But what if? But how about if this? And provide them with alternative ways that they need to come up with answers to a particular question. And can they transfer knowledge to the real world? If what they're doing in science or social studies, for example, or history, can they use that knowledge and bring it to their day-to-day life or have impact in a socially responsible way in the real world? And again, what can you do at home to support what's being done at school? These are questions that you should feel free to discuss with your child's teacher in order to form a cohesive partnership. If your child has an IEP, it must be reviewed now. There are several questions for you to be asking on an ongoing basis, but more importantly, when the report cards come out. So firstly, you want to know, is the IEP working? Is your child meeting or progressing toward meeting the expectations? If it's a modified program, that means if they're working on expectations that differ from their grade level expectations, do these expectations need to be revised? Are these expectations and goals realistic? If it's an accommodated program, are these accommodations successful? Do they need some change? Do some need to be added? You know, they might be now writing tests or exams or doing work in the classroom. Do they need to take this to an alternative location? Will that help them to be more successful? So you need to know if it's a modified program or if your child is receiving accommodations. You need to take time to read and reread the report card. You need to read it for understanding. You need to use the information to make a plan, choosing specific strategies that will provide the greatest opportunity for your child to be successful. After all, as your child's parent, you know them the best. Don't let time pass and get to June and say, what did my child learn this year? That should be an ongoing question and one that has specific answers.
Thank you, Ann and Karen. That wraps up the formal portion of our webinar this evening. I'm going to turn it back over to Ann and Karen to answer a few questions. Just another reminder about our special offer from the presentation this evening. Mention you participated in the Understanding Report Cards to Support Learning when you book an appointment with Children's Support Solutions between now and April 30th, and we will waive the administrative fee. And so I'm just going to have a look and see if you have any questions right now. So it doesn't look like any have been sent in. As of right now, I encourage you to send in any questions you may have. Just a reminder that you can do that through our control panel on the right-hand side. And it does look like we have a couple questions. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ann and Karen and take it away.
So one question that a listener sent in is, when should a remediation program begin if there is a noted decline in performance? It's always a concern if there's been a decline, and the short answer is a remediation program should begin as soon as possible. But to take a step back, I think it's important to meet with the teacher to determine what the reason was for a decline in performance. Was it an academic issue? Are there other things going on? Are there some social issues, some learning skills issues? As we said previously, academic performance and achievement is often affected by the learning skills, by social emotional concerns as well. So it's not enough just to think that perhaps the work was too difficult, but you need to look at the whole child and the entire program. And if the program is too difficult, what is the teacher's plan to do something about it?
I would also refer back to the report card, as all report card comments should indicate next steps. So if the report card is showing a decline, hopefully there's a comment to support the decline that says blank should blank, blank, blank. Use that as your starting point for the conversation with your child's teacher.
Yes. Another question is, what suggestions do you have if the report card comments don't seem to be reflective of your child's abilities? And how much weight do you place on the comments? You should put quite a bit of weight on the comments, because that's where the teacher should be telling you what they were assessing, what the achievement was, what the expectations were, and what your child did to demonstrate learning in that area. So if you think that the comments don't reflect your child's ability, you need to have a conversation with the teacher about where that discrepancy lies. Is it you that thinks that your child does better than the teacher? And we often hear this, parents will say, oh, my child can do this at home, and the teacher doesn't see it in the classroom. So if that's the case, you need to figure out with the teacher an alternative way for your child to show achievement in the classroom, because teachers cannot mark what they cannot see, and they have to see it on several occasions. So this is where alternative methods for demonstration might come into play. It might be that your child needs to work and demonstrate learning in a one-on-one situation with the teacher, or he or she might have to demonstrate it in writing or orally. So it's up to you to bring this to the teacher's attention to figure out where the problem lies.
Report card comments are very straightforward. There's a very small box and a very small window of opportunity for the teacher to communicate whether your child is meeting, exceeding, or below grade level and expectations.
Additionally, because of the constraints of these boxes, and it's all done on computer, some teachers are much better at writing report cards than others. They have a way of explaining themselves in language that parent-friendly language, which not all teachers are able to do. So I think we would recommend that you read the report card, perhaps go through some of what we just suggested in terms of color coding the teacher's comments, and then bring it back to the teacher to have a conversation.
Our next question just came in online. It reads, what if the subject is too easy? How do you tell the teacher to either give them advanced learning or homework of another grade for that particular subject? Well, I would recommend that much like assessment is gleaned over time, so too is your evidence that the subject is too easy for your child. Collect student samples of work, collect evidence that your child is exceeding the expectation, and create a scenario where your child is able to demonstrate that the work is not challenging for them. Set up a meeting with the teacher and simply ask how your child could be challenged moving forward. I think it's a real easy fix for most teachers if the evidence is there and if they agree that the student needs to be enriched or further challenged.
Yeah, I think the key is the enrichment and not homework from another grade, because that entails teaching. The teacher has to teach that grade level content and do the assessment, do the evaluation. What we want, as we stated in one of our slides, for those students going beyond the exceeding expectations, we want to enrich them, have them think outside the box, stretch their thinking. So I think that, if you're feeling, or if the teacher is feeling that your child is advanced in a particular area, then how can you work, how can the teacher work to stretch their thinking in that area?
The next question says, my daughter has an IEP, but the box was not checked off on the report card. Is this a mistake? We did speak about this during the webinar tonight, and if the box is checked off on the report card, it means that your daughter is on a modified curriculum. If your child has an IEP, but it is accommodated only, the box will not be checked off on the report card.
And your child might be working at the same grade level, but instead of having to demonstrate 5 expectations at that grade level, they're only working to demonstrate 2. That's a change in expectations. It's a modified program, and the box should be checked. Accommodations would be working in a small, in a quiet space, preferential seating, use of technology, but all the time working on the grade appropriate material. Another question is, my child is in grade 3 and her report card is all C's. Should I be concerned? We know that the ministry's expectation are B's. That being said, that's not necessarily realistic for every child in every subject at any given point in time. That's the goal of all children, of all teachers, to get the kids, their students, to work at that level. I would say go over the report card, see what the comments have to say, see what your child can accomplish, what areas are deficit, and have a meeting with the teacher to determine if in fact she feels this is reflective of your child's abilities.
The next question is, what can I do to improve my son's learning skills? His marks in the subject areas were 65 to 70%, but his learning skills were satisfactory and needs improvement. He is in grade 8. Learning skills are very, very important because assessment and report cards are created to drive student success and achievement. Learning skills really support a student being able to deliver curriculum expectations in meaningful ways. It shows that they are caring and conscientious members of the learning environment, and that they will embed the skills to become lifelong learners and successful people in the future. I would highly recommend scheduling a meeting with your child's teacher to talk about improving the learning skills. What can be done both inside the classroom and at home to support the creation and implementation of the learning skills so that your son is able to start to demonstrate these skills in meaningful ways.
I think the, a potential problem here is although he's able to demonstrate learning at the 70th percentile, there might be a time in the near future where his poor learning skills begin to impact his level of achievement even more. So I think it's really crucial, as Karen said, to have a meeting and really figure out what the problems are and how to remedy them.
I would also see how your son functions at home in terms of his executive function and in terms of how he demonstrates those learning skills at home and with his peers and in other social/emotional environments that aren't necessarily academic environments, and see if those satisfactory and these improvements translate. And if they do, partner with your child's teacher to build an in-school/out-of-school support network for him.
Another question that came in is, I was shocked by my daughter's report card. She's in grade 2, and I had no idea she wasn't meeting expectations until the report card came home. What should I do? Most principals will say there should be no surprises on report cards. There should be ongoing communication between the classroom and the home. So I'm sorry to hear that it was a shock to you. When we talked about assessment for learning at the beginning of the presentation, many of those assessments often are sent home so that parents are aware of what the classroom is working on and how their children are progressing in terms of meeting the expectations. So again, I would recommend color coding the report card, seeing exactly, going back, what were the expectations, what did your child's teacher have to say about your child, and then going in to have a meeting with your child's teacher. One of the things that should be an outcome of the meeting is how you can improve school and home communication so that you are more aware of what's going on and that there are no surprises in the future.
In addition, you can also ask to have success criteria for assignments be sent to you so you can assure your daughter is doing the necessary steps that she needs to be doing in order to complete assignments in the classroom. Okay, here's a question. My son is in grade 5 and he has an IEP. He is supposed to write his tests in a small room where he can get help to read the questions if he needs it. But his teacher never arranges for this. What should I do?
Well, unfortunately, this happens. It's not an uncommon problem. And if he's entitled to, if his IEP says that he should write his test in a small room, then absolutely the school is obliged to find a way to make that happen. I would recommend that you meet with the teacher. Hopefully, there are some positive aspects on his report card that he's been able to, meet and expectations, and that he's demonstrating achievement, but that perhaps this achievement could be improved if he were having the benefit of a small room. So this is why one of the aspects we spoke about tonight was the IEP. It's the time to review the IEP, not just to make sure that what is on it is appropriate, but additionally to make sure that what is on it is actually happening in the school and in the classroom. So that certainly is reason enough to go and request a teacher interview.
That was great. Sorry, that was great. Thank you so much, Anne and Karen, for joining us this evening. It's been fantastic having you, and we wish everyone a wonderful evening. And as I mentioned earlier, a recorded version of this webinar will be available via our social media outlets within 48 hours of this presentation. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.